welcome to the Frostbites podcast. My name is Minna and I'm coming to you from Finland, where I live and knit and do other crafty things. Today is my special Podiversary episode because my podcast is turning 1 year pretty much these days. I am quite sure that this video will be uploaded on YouTube just 1 or 2 days before the actual Podiversary date. It's been quite a year. I have enjoyed so much this community that we have all around the world. I have made new friends, both online and in real life, and it has been so much more amazing than I ever could have expected when I first started. This is episode 19, and this time I don't have a lot of knitting to show. In fact, I only have one whip with me, but I have a lot of skeins here with me that I have dyed, and I wanted to show you the results of my natural dye experiments. And towards the end I will also announce a giveaway for the Podiversary. When I first started a year ago filming these little videos, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how much happiness it would bring into my life. I have had days or weeks when I thought that I should film an episode but didn't really feel like it. And I have thought about giving up the whole thing. But when I get to read your comments and your messages, I feel so happy, and I feel that there is a place for me in the knitting world, and that I do actually have something that I can share with you and probably inspire a little bit, or just keep you company while you're knitting. And that feeling has kept me going, and I hope to keep going in the future as well. I think on my first episode I said something about there is a reason why my podcast is called Frostbites Podcast, and I think I never got back to that. I used to write a blog which still exists on Blogger, but I haven't updated it in years. I think maybe 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. And I started with the name Pakkasen Purema, which means frostbites, because I think my biggest role model in crafting has been my grandmother, and her family name was Pakkanen, which is frost in English, and I wanted to somehow keep or have a piece of her in my blog and in my space where I create. So that's where it came from. When I was a little girl and when I was visiting grandma, I used to stand by her sewing table when she was sewing. She used to make clothes for all of us, her grandchildren, and she taught me many things about sewing, and I think part of my creativity comes from that side of the family. But also my other grandmother from my father's side and her mother, so my grandmother, were very crafty people. But I think the biggest influence was my grandmother from my mom's side, because she's the one who I saw crafting the most. And she was living closer to me at the time, and I used to go over for a weekend to stay with my grandparents, and we usually ended up sewing something, or grandmother sewed, and I liked watching her. And I also wanted to have a name which somehow reflected my living here in the north. So that's how Frostbites became my blog's name and now my podcast name. Yes, okay, so let's get to the things that we have today on the podcast. Let's start with what I'm wearing. You probably recognize all of these. You have seen these before, but in case you are a new viewer, I will shortly go through. This is the Quiet Day shawl, which is my own design, which I published last March, I think. It is knit in Tukuwool, a Finnish yarn company, which is the yarn is 100% Finnish wool. I have used 4 different colorways. I can't remember the colorway names, but you can find all the details on my pattern and also on my own project page on Ravelry. And it is a very easy to make garter stitch shawl with a little bit of lace, and it's available on Ravelry if you would like to purchase it. And my sweater is my most precious thing that I have ever knitted, I think. This is my Luotolainen fisherman's sweater, which is based on the pattern that hasn't been published in written form as of yet. The people who lived on this island where I'm at the moment, Hailuoto, the ladies on the island would knit these sweaters for their husbands, and I suppose in time also women started wearing these. And if you want to know more about the sweater, you can check my episode 3, where I explain the process of knitting this and also the history of this sweater. And it's also 100% Finship wool. I especially like the color with the buttons, so you can wear it open like this when it's not it breathes more and it's not that hot, and then if it's cold you can button it up and it protects your neck like that. And even if you wore it open, the back neck stays up and keeps your neck warm because it has been sewn down. I'm not sure if you can see. It's been sewn down here at the edge, so it stands up. And my beanie is called Above the Horizon. It's a pattern by Veera Välimäki. It's a bit bright here. I'm not sure if you can see it properly. I have knitted in easyknits.co.uk yarn, and this grey, I'm not sure if it's hedgehog fibers or easy knits as well, but the colorful part is easy knits yarn. And I'm also wearing a pair of mitts, fingerless mitts, that I have crocheted many years ago. This is some sort of alpaca yarn. I wear these quite a lot when I go out. The weather has certainly changed, and it is autumn now here in Finland. Today it is about 8 or 9 degrees, and it's partly cloudy, and here on top of the dune where I'm sitting, it's also a bit windy, so it's good to have warm clothes. Now, I told you I only have one whip with me. I haven't been working on a lot of things lately. I have been spending so much time on dyeing yarn and also working on my design, which some of you might know I have been re-knitting at least 100 times by now. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen me rip it back a few times, and fingers crossed it's working now. I hope so. But I do have my other whip here with me, which I've already shown you before. It is my stripes, sides and stripes sweater by Veera Välimäki. It's a yoke sweater, and I'm not sure if I had a marker here where I was last time. I wonder if it's this one. If it is, then I have knitted 4 rows, which is not much. But anyway, I'm using hedgehog fiber skinny singles in teacup and oracle colorways, and I have been carrying this around everywhere I go, but I really haven't had time to knit on it that much. And when I've been at home, I've been knitting on my design. So I suppose we can move on to the yarn dyeing. If you have watched my previous episodes, you know that I have started dyeing yarn just for fun. I'm not selling them, at least not yet. Just experimenting and trying out how to dye yarn with natural colors. 2 Finnish podcasters, Nonnu Neuloja and Kurjen Marja, are hosting a plant dyeing cal, which I'm attending. I'm not sure if I will have time to knit anything out of my yarn before the cal ends. I think it runs until the end of this year. I could be wrong. But I have enjoyed just experimenting with plant dyeing. So this is what I have dyed so far. It's a beautiful basket full of natural colors, and I have been using a lot of yarn that I have had in my stash in natural white or different shades of grey, and I have also bought a few skeins of merino and some merino blends. There are little flies flying around all the time and they get caught in the yarn. How should I go through these? Let's go through these according to the bases. So I think this one's different. Yes. Okay, so these ones are all dyed on grey Finship wool, the same wool that I have used on this fisherman's sweater. So this is how it looks like on a skein before dyeing. And I have used different dyes with these. This is my very first dye with birch leaves. And then these were dyed with onion skins. I really like this color, especially on the grey base. I think the grey base gives depth to the colors and creates a bit of a heathered look to the yarn. And then this one is my latest color from Reed, and I think I wasn't paying attention to the ones that I was collecting. I guess you should pick the ones that have more purple in them. I don't know the plant part names, but it's the end that looks like a brush. So there should be a bit more purple at a certain time of the growth. So you should look for them. I guess they give you more color, but I'm quite pleased. At first it looked as if there was no color at all in the yarn when it was wet. But when it dried, it of course turned lighter and the color started showing better. And then here I have used the leftovers of my onion skins and madder root. And this is almost green as well, so it's quite interesting how there was very little dye left in the madder root batch that I mixed with the onion skins. But it turned out to be this very pale green. And I have been thinking about making a yoked sweater with this grey as my main color, and then a colorwork yoke with some of these colors, and then I think I'm going to try and dye one skein with madder root as well. And yeah, I really like all these colors, all different shades of green, and I guess this is more of an orangey, yellowish green. So that's all of my fisherman sweater Finship wool, because I have other Finship wool bases as well. Yes, I think this is all the rest of the Finship wool. that I have. It's really hard to hold them all in my hands at the same time. So these two are dyed on a bit thicker fin sheep wool. It was very greasy and it was really hard to get the yarn clean before dyeing. Here I have used the same onion skins and madder root leftovers, and it created for this natural white yarn this pale pinkish yellow color. And the same base with reed, beautiful light green. Then we have a bit thinner fin sheep wool. This was very light gray, lighter than what my sweater is. And here I used onion skins. And this one is the second batch of my birch leaves. Also on a very light gray base. And then this one is also fin sheep wool. This is even thinner. I think this is probably 2-ply fingering weight. And here I used birch leaves. It's probably a bit hard to see the colors. I was hoping that the natural light would give me better colors than filming indoors. Here is pretty accurate. So this is very pale, very pale green. And then I have these two, which were natural white. 2-ply, and this feels to me a lot like tuku wool, but I think it wasn't tuku wool because I shouldn't have had left that much white color from that, so it has to be something else, but it's fin sheep wool anyway. And I have the first dye from the madder root and the second. So a very bright orange and orangey pink, or maybe salmon color, I would say. And then these two skeins I bought from Jyväskylä Knit Festival with the intention of trying natural dyes on them. And they are fin sheep wool blended with silk. And they are pretty much the same colors as these ones. So a salmon color and a bright orange. I was planning on making Hohi's Midsummer Haze cowl from these, but because the color difference is so severe, I think I'm going to use only this one and pair it with this one, which I'm going to show you next. So this batch is all dyed on natural white onion Tassa silk, which I still have one skein left of. It is it's a 50-gram skein with 135 meters yarn, so it's about sport weight. It's 34 Tussa silk and 66 merino. And one skein is dyed with madder root from the second dye batch. One is dyed with the second dye from the birch leaves. This is yellow, definitely yellow. And then this light green is from the reed. Also quite a nice color trio. So I thought that I would pair these for the Midsummer Haze cowl. Actually, I used avocado first for this one, but it was in the same pot with I think a merino skein, and the merino skein sucked up all the dye, pretty much all the dye from the pot, and this was left very, very pale pink. You could hardly see that there was any color in it. So I put it to the madder root dye bath during the last 20 minutes when it was already cooling off. So that's where it got more color from. And the end result is that it's pretty similar with this madder dyed silk wool blend. So because this isn't enough for the cowl, I needed another skein for it. I hope this is enough with if I combine these two. And because this is softer, I thought that I will put this one on top, which is the part that goes around my neck, and then this would be the lace part of the cowl. There's more. Then I have a couple of skeins of Arvetta Classic, which is merino nylon blend. Very affordable and very soft sock yarn. And I have used, with this one, I used this color gray, and then, no, these two are dyed on the gray base, and then these two are dyed on natural white. And all three of these are dyed with madder root. And there is this one skein which I was trying to create some sort of tonal effect. There are bits that are a bit lighter than the rest of the skein. It's not very visible on the camera, but in real life you can see the difference. I'm just playing around with the dye method, and all these others should be pretty much evenly dyed. And finally I have some random mini skeins that I had in my stash. These 4 are dyed with birch leaves, and these 2 with madder root in the second dye bath. And all of these 3 were dyed on Pickles Merino Tweed, which is really soft and airy, very lovely yarn. I have knitted 1 sweater for myself with this yarn, and it gets softer and softer by time, and I just love this yarn. I think I need to order some more at some stage. It also takes the dye really beautifully, and you can see the tweedy, subtle tweedy bits in there, probably a bit of bluish and greenish tweedy nubs in there. I only had these leftover skeins, 6 grams, 12 grams and 10 grams. So alone you can't really do anything with these, but these were a good experiment, and if I decide to order more, I could dye maybe even a sweater's quantity out of that. This would be really nice for color work as well, because it's a sticky non-superwash yarn. And then finally these birch leaf yarns. These are on a Finnish commercial sock yarn, Nalle, which is a sport weight sock yarn. I don't really like using it. I had a natural white leftover skein which I used for these, and I think now that it's dyed, I think I will use it for maybe a pair of socks. And then this one was Drops Nepo, a leftover 20-gram skein. So those were all of the skeins that have come out of my dye pots. I have really enjoyed experimenting with the dyes, and it's interesting to see, because you never quite know what the end result is going to be until the yarn is completely dry. And I think all of these in the end worked quite well. And I think a good thing about natural dyes and dyeing in general is that if the color doesn't work, you can always over dye it with something else. I accidentally left my pot unattended for a while the other day when I was using reed. I think it's this one and this one and this one. And it was boiling when I noticed it. But I don't think that the yarn has suffered too much from the boiling, surprisingly. I was freaking out when I noticed it, and I thought that all the yarns were ruined. But once they were dry, I don't feel much difference. It didn't felt, none of these did. And it looks, all the bases look the same as the other ones which haven't been boiled. So I guess I was lucky there. I guess the worst thing you can do is to change the temperature rapidly from cold to hot or from hot to cold. these were in the pot slowly heating up and then simmering and then boiling. So the change in temperature wasn't sudden, but it was very gradual. And maybe it would be interesting to see the different bases with the same colors. So these are all reed. I will quickly go these back again. Birch and onion, oh, there's one birch as well here, and then we have a lot of madder. And finally a mixture of onion and madder. So, into the giveaway for my 1 year Podiversary. I am going to give away some of these skeins that I have dyed. There will be, I think, 2 options. One option is this beautiful orange on finship wool and silk. I need to check how much in this I have. It's 100 grams. I think it was about 350 meters. So somewhere between fingering and sport weight. So that's one option. And the other option from which the winner can choose are these together, both with madder, and they were finship wool, and the darker skein is 44 grams and the lighter one is 51, so you get 95 grams altogether. And I think these would be perfect for colorwork mittens or something like that. And well, they are all orange, so maybe I can add one more choice. Let's see. Where is it? So one option could be this one with arvetta, superwash merino and nylon blend, both 50 gram skeins, and the other one is dyed with madder and the other one is with reed. So these are your options to choose from if you win. In any case, you get about 100 grams of yarn and then something little extra to go with them. And how you can win my yarn you need to go to Ravelry, to the Frostbites podcast group, and find the Podiversary giveaway thread. And on the thread, I would like you to comment and write something that you would like to know about Finland in my podcasts. So some ideas that I could use in my podcast about Finland. It could be, would you like to know more about some Finnish yarns or dyers or designers or patterns or food, the nature, anything about Finland, because I want to have a focus on Finland on my podcast in the future as well. So any ideas that you would like to hear and see on my podcast that are loosely about Finland. Or if you have any other ideas. If you're from Finland, you probably don't need to find out that much more about the Finnish culture or anything. You can also write any other ideas that you have that you would like to hear me talk about on my podcast. So some ideas for the podcast, and that will give you a chance of winning something that I dyed. And once I have chosen the winner, I will contact you or ask you to contact me, and then you can choose which set you would like. Or maybe I can post photos. Yes, I will do that. I will post photos of those 3 options on the thread, and in your comment also let me know which of those sets you would like to win if you are the winner. Clear enough? I will write all this down on the thread, on the first comment on the thread, so you will find the details there if that was too complicated. Okay, I think this episode will be a bit shorter this time because, like I said, I don't have any knitting to show you. I will get back to you in a few weeks, I hope. And before I go, I would like to remind you of a knit night that I'm hosting in Oulu next week. Or actually it will be this week when you're watching, if you're watching it, if you're watching the video when it's freshly uploaded. So on the 3rd of September, which is a Sunday, we will meet up at pancake restaurant in Oulu called Lekker 61. It's a fairly new restaurant, not in the very heart of the city center, but very near. And you will find more details about that in my Ravelry group. So if you're local, please join us. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I have no idea how many people will show up. If you can please let me know if you're coming, so that I can let Dirkje, hi Dirkje, from Lekker to know how many people are coming, so that we will have enough to eat. So, and you can also check their menu on their website. And yeah, so if you are coming, please let me know via Instagram or in the Ravelry group, or if you've seen the ad on Facebook, then you can also let me know on Facebook. Anyway, I think that's all. The sun is coming out. I am going to enjoy my Podiversary muffin here in the forest, and maybe knit a few stitches before I head back home on the ferry. So I see you next time. Bye!